Good to go. Good to go. Awesome. There we are. All right, and we're live. What's going on, tribe? So today we're gonna crack into this live, and if you're watching this, you probably have found us from Instagram on my Instagram. And today we're gonna go pretty deep, okay? And I've got my brother Steve Love here, okay? And we're gonna go into some very new aspects of what you can expect if you are serious about like really just getting in the competitive edge as a business owner, as a coach, as someone who is here to really make impact, have that level of freedom, and truly transcend the noise so that you can actually create the type of legacy, but true change of your life, change of your client's life, and be able to sign more clients, be able to attract the right leads into your funnel, but do it in a way where you're not going to get lost in the noise. And Steve and I have had really unique journeys, obviously, as entrepreneurship is like a spiritual game. And so we're here to just break things down so that you can sleep peacefully at night and understand a new context, a new level of what it's going to take for you as an established coach, okay? Because we're here to talk to established coaches. We're here to talk to people who want to make millions like we have. And it wasn't easy, obviously. We didn't just start there, but we want to show you some of the lessons that we've learned, some of the stories that we have been through to really give you this idea of how you're going to have the best chance at standing out in 2024. And maybe some of the things that you could be very surprised about, things like pricing strategy, things like content creation, things that maybe a lot of coaches focus on that maybe are feeling like the right thing, but maybe they're the right thing at the wrong time. We're going to show you exactly what we mean by that. So the first concept that I wanted to bring in today, and we just got back from the sauna and the cold plunge, so we're feeling pretty chill right now, was that the dynamics of where we're going, in my experience, is into a more holistic, multi-dimensional space of reality. And so in normal person's language, this is like the veil is very thin. And we want to give you some of these understandings about like, what are some of the strategies? Like I have my Awaken 7-Figure sales system. Steve has his other systems that he's happy to talk to you about. And we may actually go down some rabbit holes about some of the underlying psychology, underlying problems that a lot of coaches deal with, not just in their business actions, but also in how they're spending their time in their relationships, what's going on with their mental, their physical, emotional, and spiritual health, and their family. Okay, because we drive our business through certain principles, certain values, certain vision. We have certain levels of data that we share, and we also have networks. We have the right people on our team that keep the ship scaling up and helping other coaches to grow. But we also have the right processes that we have tested over and over and over again, so that you can have a deep understanding of how to kind of discern, okay, like who should you trust? Why, like, what is this whole world of marketing? And in terms of how it constantly evolves. And you can have more of a clear idea of like what we've done to be able to source so much more impact than, I would say, probably 98% of the coaching industry. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It just comes with experience. And our intention here is to share value with you, to truly help you to move yourself forward and be able to get the most ROI on every single action that you take. So the first topic today is going to be about, well, let's just break this down into kind of 4 phases, because it'll help people to understand, at least from my point of view, what my clients focus on. And actually the big 5. So the first one is obviously mindset, It's the subconscious mind. It's the conscious mind. It is what you are, how you are perceiving yourself, how you're perceiving the world, how you're perceiving the industry, how you perceive all things in life, your relationships in life. But then number two is, how do you attract your dream client? What's the best way to do that? Through your content, through your voice, through your story, through your speaking, through your brand, through your messaging, through your offer communication and your content. And then from there, it's, okay, sales, right? Conversion. How do you take a lead into a commitment? Because the truth is that interest and curiosity does not equal commitment. And there's a whole bunch of people who are interested and curious, and a lot of coaches, they leave a lot of money on the table from not having a consistent and measurable and predictable sales system that is actually up to date, that is not outdated. And I see we're gonna go through a bunch of shit that like we've done, we've failed, we've succeeded, we've gone through different kind of phases of testing and just networking with other super successful coaches and hiring other coaches as well to support us. But we'll get into that. But then also we're gonna show you how to like kind of have the right expectations when it comes to understanding, okay, how do you have me wow? That's not gonna keep you capped and just continuously over delivering because you have nothing better to do in a way, because you don't have enough time, according to the 80-20 principle, which is 20% of your time should be delivering in a perfect world. 80% of your time should be building your business and living your life. But if you are over delivering, a lot of our clients don't barely have time to even market, to even do anything when it comes to signing new clients. So go into that about how you can expand that and how you can increase the results of your clients so that you can actually get more of a referral flywheel from inside of the business as well. And then the last one is obviously scale, right? It's, okay, how do you phase yourself out of the low ROI tasks and build out these kind of systems of leadership and ways of being able to leverage your time most effectively? And this is where like I like to get excited about leadership, about team building, about culture, and about creating a really potent environment, a really amazing community, not just in your paid community, but also the community that of people who actually engage with your content and who follow you on Instagram, people who go in your private Facebook groups or follow you on Facebook or LinkedIn and YouTube. There's so many different ways that you can keep people kind of in your world. And we're gonna go a little bit into that. So why don't we just, first off, kind of just give a background of like what some of your top principles and rituals every day, because I know my audience cares a lot about, okay, how do you access that transcendent state of being to be able to execute at a high level and actually enjoy the process, but be able to kind of parlay that to like, okay, well, you feel high vibe, that's awesome, but like, what exactly are you supposed to be doing every day? Do you have a clear roadmap? Are you just fucking throwing spaghetti at the wall? Are you just kind of like following an outdated process? Like, how do we balance that kind of 5D world with the 3D worlds? Like, let me just hear your thoughts on what you say about that to start this off.
Yeah, thanks, Theo. Hey, everyone. So Steve Love here. So I have something that I kind of took when I first had my awakening, and, you know, was doing the meditation, all those different sorts of things. And when I became a coach, I started incorporating some of those and helping my clients build out their, I call it a daily and weekly alignment ritual. But what made it a little bit different is it was in the context of my program. And so what it is every single day, there is a morning ritual and an evening ritual. And really first it starts with, you know, your affirmations, and that's kind of like reading your vision statement every day, you know, like Think and Grow Rich kind of style, like just rereading it every single day, that sort of thing. And then I would have your gratitude list, just 3 things you're grateful for. You can go on, but even when there's a bad day, there's at least 3 things you can be grateful for, you know, when you wake up and then when you go to bed. Because as you know, like the more, you know that old saying, more money, more problems, like it really can create, or Robert Kiyosaki talks about the chaos of abundance,
Uh-huh.
right? And so it's kind of like the more clients you have, the more success you have, the more people want from you. There's like a lot of things that can go wrong. And so it's really important to focus on like what you're grateful for, what went right, what were those wins, because you're going to perceive the world as you choose to perceive it. And if you continuously focusing on the good, it's going to really help you through those times that actually are bad. And, you have bad days and things just don't work out right. You lose ad accounts, you lose social profiles, you lose employees, you go through breakups, like whatever it is. And so that's super important. And then the final thing is just having 6 things that you're going to do every single day. And just 6 things, keeping it really simple. And I know a lot of people talk about, you got to do this fancy strategy, you got to send out all these DMs. It's like, sometimes you just need a pen and paper. Like, what are you going to do today? Making sure that you hit those. And it can be sending 50 DMs, but just whatever's important to you that day, and making sure that you actually do that on top of, all the KPI stuff that, you love to geek out on. I like to write reports about it. You love to geek out on all that sort of stuff, but I also just like to keep it simple. And so that's the every morning. I mean, seriously, it takes 5 minutes to do. And then every week I have weekly where we go into, what were your wins across love, relationships, money, and your health. Like, what were your wins? What did you accomplish that week? What are some things you need to work on? And then what are some of the action steps you need to take? And so that way it kind of gives you like some context to just your life in order. Because like, when we're coaches, we have to live the lifestyle. We're not going to, like, you can't just succeed in one area of your life, especially as a business owner. Like, you can't have shitty relationships or shitty health and expect to be a high performer, right? Especially if you want to, have a 7-figure business. And so it's important to take that, it's like actually working on yourself, taking that little bit of time in the morning, and then also once a week sitting down for an hour and being like, hey, let me reevaluate the week. So that way I'm moving forward. I'm really clear and strong, because clarity creates confidence in the week. And so that's what, for me, that's kind of like the spiritual aspect, the personal development, the side of the business. And it's amazing how many problems just that solves. So,
yeah. Speaking about that, one of the things that we train in a lot in the spaces that I train in is the influence. And it's not like what you may think. Of course, like everyone knows, like influence is all about, okay, how do you do something to create a behavioral change in other people? And this is a fucking crazy conversation, because I think so many people, especially, it doesn't really even matter what your spiritual beliefs are or not. We all have a healthy level of discernment and skepticism as we mature as adults. And so it's pretty much, it's almost impossible to know for sure, like, what is someone's intention? Okay, we've seen positive things go down in life, in history. We've seen shitty things go down. And I always share with people, from what I understand, is that let's just give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, let's pretend that like everybody has a positive intention. Everybody wants to add value to others and make a positive difference, generally speaking. Everyone has like an inherent goodness, no matter how many fucking mistakes they've made or whatever the fuck they've done. That's repentable. But at the end of the day, okay, you have to accept this if you expect to make big impact, is that it doesn't matter how ethical you think you are, how good of a person you think you are. Everyone is trying to influence and change behavior to get something for themselves. And that is not good or bad. That is just the way the world works. And the sooner that people can accept that, especially coaches, you'll understand that marketing has a nuance of shadow, I guess you could say, or of darkness to it. It's kind of like Batman when he has to use the darkness to fight the darkness. It's just a necessary, like, quote unquote evil. Now, don't think about it like not placing a meaning or expectation of like evil means evil. What I mean is that a lot of persuasion in how you put a framing around a product or a service must involve, or at least if it's effective, it has to involve omission. removing things from the reality of actually what it takes, especially as a service-based business product, what it actually takes and how much time it actually takes to get a result. Okay, there's always got to be that element of it. There's always also got to be kind of like the glossy, shiny, sexy, candy, sugary vibe to the upfront messaging of anything that's going to grab someone's attention and make their reticular activating system pay attention and keep holding your attention. And so when it comes to like, okay, let's just pause and just forget about all the stuff I just said about, okay, marketing, messaging, attraction, all that stuff. Like, what do you do physically? There's an inner game of influence that we talk about, which is like such a cool spiritual peak performance skill set. And that is, how do you create this dynamic in every interaction that you have? Like, what if I were to tell you that, like, I could go ahead and market to you all day and tell you all the lies that are fed to you about like what actually will help you get amazing results. But what if I would also share with you that when you just stop for a second, just stop marketing, stop worrying so much, just stop judging so much, and all of a sudden you can soften your physiology. And I could invite you into a deeper gnosis. And this is what we call like the self-hypnotic trance of, okay, yeah, you're a fucking 11 out of 10. You are awesome. Why? Because you're awesome. And the moment you justify why you're awesome, based on what you've accomplished, based on what you look like, based on what you have, you failed the universal shit test. You failed that shit. Because the moment you're justifying, kind of overcompensating and overqualifying yourself, there's a subtle form of like trying a little bit too hard. So what if you could just stop and allow yourself to receive the now, receive source, receive God, know that you are awesome because you're awesome. And now you're paying attention to all your positive, unique qualities, the parts of you that make you you. And now your physiology is starting to unlock. You're getting out of your head. You're not in your head. You're out here. You're kind of out here, and you've kind of transcended this kind of collective paradigm of high self-absorption, high self-concern, borderline narcissism. Because when people tell me, I'm afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of criticism. I'm afraid of being canceled. I'm afraid of being seen on this certain level. I'm afraid of rejection. Okay, I'm afraid of abandonment. There are all of these different things, which are generally the underlying root causes that are kind of like saboteurs, right? Subconscious saboteurs that keep us hovering kind of under a glass upper ceiling limit of what our nervous system feels safe with, of receiving money or love or affection or just fuck yes energy. There's a certain level of safety that's familiar to you. And what we do is we push your capacity to receive more and push your capacity to be okay with holding that, okay? To put a very simple example, like think about all the people who win the lottery and they just lose it all. Why do you think they do that? Well, it's because there's a part of them that's out of integrity and incongruence with who they see themselves as now. What are they allowed to have? What is okay with them? This is why they lose it all, like that. And so when we get back into this kind of invisible trance that we put ourselves into, the physiology, the eye contact, the body language, the silence of like, how can I create a potent expression when the timing feels intuitively right? Because if I'm just going like, go, 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 yabba, 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 like that can be cool after a while, but all of a sudden it just starts to become like noise. And that's actually a metaphor for like when everybody learns from the Hormozis, not that we're knocking Hormozi, we think he's awesome, but everyone's learning from like the Dan Kennedys, all the like the influencer gurus, the Dini Grazionis or whatever the fuck. Like everybody does it. So if everybody does it over time, okay, what ends up working really well when it comes to offer conversion, content, and stuff like that, it just kind of starts to decay, starts to die a little bit. And so when you start with here, like Steve was talking about, like I think that's really important for people to remember is like no plan is gonna work if you don't fucking work. Like if you don't execute, if you don't feel good executing, damn, it's gonna be a hard, long road for you. You're probably gonna get shiny ball syndrome and invest into this. Oh, reality, I have to implement it. Damn it. Oh, not even putting enough data in, bro. Like you're not even putting enough data in to get accurate feedback on like what you should tweak, right? And so when we come back into these rituals, into the environment, into the gnosis of, okay, how do I control my own frame, right? How do I see myself as this kind of person who could actually create like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's kind of a game with the universe. You're kind of like meeting the universe, you're playing with this, you're creating this, and it's that flow of that transcendent flow of like where you're just married to the process. And now you're kind of not as attached to the outcome. You're only in your intention to like, you know what you want, but you're still kind of harmonizing between, hey, I know what I fucking want. I own what I want. I own my desire. I'm going to break that kind of like childhood conditioning that we had of like, who are you, Johnny, to want that? How dare you? We don't do that shit in our family. You know, like how many times did we hear that? But then you're like breaking that because you're a fucking adult and you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur who's embodied. But then from the wanting of the paradigm shift, of the standard rates, of the skill set, of the clear, powerful vision that like transcends your selfish desires, which I think are awesome. Like you should be okay with wanting nice things. That's okay. But just not living there. Not living in a place where like, oh, I need to, you know, be successful because I want to just prove to my parents I'm good enough. They're lovable. Steve,
You're lovable. You're lovable.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you tap into that higher purpose, right? That transcendent purpose of like, why did your soul come here? Who are you becoming? Who do you want to become to share with the world? And that is, I personally think that that's more important than any kind of fucking external recognition that you may get from raising your status or influence or impact or kind of social proof, if you will. Like that's awesome. And I think there's a transcendent reason as to why we all came here, which I believe can also sometimes maybe be spiritually like trauma based of like the alchemy of that. And that's kind of like how deep I go with this stuff. Like these are actual things that we can bring up and kind of create tools to get the most leverage on our kind of like our paradigm of how we like the lens that we see through the world through our own pupils of like, what is your independent access to flow? What is your own perception? And do you trust that you have a unique superior perspective? Not that you're above people, but that you can trust that through your own self-amusing and fascinated perspective of seeing life through your own eyes and having that kind of like sovereign, independent perception that you get to contribute to the world. Like, well, I want you to just go deeper on that. About like, just like really, how do you balance like, okay, how do I take what's coming at me, right? And learning about like, okay, how do I extract wisdom out here through the power of, you know, I guess you could say respectable, reputable, what we call groupthink. So groupthink is like where a collective of people say, hey, this is acceptable belief. And like that this is like not acceptable. There's kind of like an Overton window. And so that just kind of becomes normal. It's the same thing like if you were to be running towards the end of a cliff. Make sure that's on. Make sure that's on. Oh, there we go. If you were to be running towards the end of a cliff and everyone's like, no, Steve, no, like that's called groupthink. That saves you fucking time from having to need to make unnecessary mistakes. But there's more things of like what's socially acceptable, or you'll get canceled. You can't offend anyone because oh no, people get a boo-boo, an emotional boo-boo, right? Like that's the fucking society that we live in, especially in capitalism. So like, how do we go in and bring this level of authenticity while still kind of creating these win-wins in our business, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, I think the best way for me to,
because it's easy to do win-lose. It's easy to have like, oh, I take, you lose, or like I lose, I'm afraid of losing, so I'm just protecting myself, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna isolate. Yeah,
it must be a win-win.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think the best way I can explain that is just through my story. I don't know if you kind of know my story on how I became a coach, but
yeah,
this was 10 years ago. I had a lifetime of drugs, depression. I had a family, I had 3 kids, pretty wife, married for 20 years, corporate career consulting, doing big projects for companies like Microsoft. And I learned about my wife's affair, and I was like, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I was up for 3 days. I was coming down, and I ran out of drugs. And then I found out that she had an affair. And it was the most excruciating pain that I'd ever experienced. And I ran downstairs, I grabbed my Glock, I put it to my head, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I literally had a conversation with God. I'm like, yes or no, like something has to change, because this old version of me is going to die, because I was living out that conditioned life. Like, you can't, your feelings aren't validated. You need to do this, you need to do that. You've got to be a husband, you've got to get a career, all the things that they told you had to do, I did. But on the inside, I wasn't okay with just being myself. Because no one really taught me how to be just myself. I didn't really receive the love that I deserved, because I didn't know I deserved any better. And that's when I heard, I'm like, yes or no. And the voice that I heard, it was my own voice. You could call it God, you could call it universe, whatever it was. And it said that I'm here to serve others. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a better dad. I won't do drugs. I'll be good. And then that's where the real work started. In that time I had mentors come into my life before that, but then they actually had to teach me how to really live. But what I realized is that it's not just about serving, but it's like who you're being in that service. And you were talking about embodiment. It's literally embodying being and being in service. But in order to do that, you have to work through everything, all the fractured energy, all the dissonance, all the limiting beliefs, all the shadows, and learning about them and shifting them and alchemizing them into your highest expression. But that can also be a very painful journey, because also I think it's human nature to want shortcuts and, not needing to do the work. And hey, I just want to be the safe me and just kind of cruise and just make money, get chicks, like whatever it is that you want. But the truth is, especially I think this is important for coaches, is because we're here to model this behavior. We're modeling the path of awakening and becoming closer to God. But in order to be closer to God, we have to remove everything that's not God. And in some ways, that's accepting all of us, right? But it's also working through and doing the work. And so, part of my, I'm like, okay, great. I'm, took the gun off my head, and I'm like, I guess I'm going to go to bed, and woke up. And then, 6 months later, I left the marriage. A year after that, I left my career. 6 months later, I moved to Bali for 2 years away from my kids. And I literally had to cut every single thread that I had been tied to before.
Well, what was that like being away from your kids? Was that hard?
So
in Bali?
Yeah, it was. I remember growing up, there was this Bible story that I remember when I was a kid in church. And I don't know if you know this story or not, but it's where God asks Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac.
I know that one.
Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck's that mean? It didn't mean anything to me when I read it. It just seemed kind of stupid. I didn't get it. But what it meant was that you have to follow your path. And it may go against everything that you think and believe how society functions. And sometimes you're asked to do things that everyone else in the world might disagree with, or you might get canceled or whatever, but that might be the very thing that you have to do. And I think that in that story, they use your child because there's probably nothing more like taboo or wrong than like sacrificing your kid, right? And so I think that's why they use that, because you literally have to be able to follow that. But the interesting thing is when you become willing, it also becomes unneeded, right? It's like, okay, you're willing to do the things, so you actually don't have to. It's only the resistance that creates the need to do it. But it allows you to, because when you dissolve that resistance, it releases that attachment to whatever being a dad is, or a husband, or being a CEO or a coach or a business owner. If your ego is attached to it, it needs to be dissolved actually to bring you closer to God. And so that process was literally peeling back the layers, layer by layer by layer by layer. I'm not a dad. I'm not a husband. I'm not this. And it's like I had to find out who I wasn't so I could find out who I really was. Like literally having the life I thought was stripped away from me. And so I think that a lot of times when you're talking about embodiment and being, it's not necessarily just finding your message, it's about being your message, right? But in order to be your message, you have to get away from everything that you're not. Like you were talking about coming at like overcompensating. That's because there's something there that has yet to be released.
Yes. And also, thank you for sharing that. That's fucking powerful. So honored and thankful you're here with us. I'm sure it'll be so much different. But yeah, no, when it comes to identity, like, actually, as soon as you said, drugs, it's part of my story. In the music industry, owned a production agency, and I blew all my money on a successful business to just blow lines in the bathroom. And that led to my chronic fatigue, my depression, anxiety, boom, fucking rock bottom. And then you like open up a trap door and you're like, oh, there's a basement there. Which was just like so many suicidal thoughts of like jumping off the bridge in Miami, Florida, 2016. Almost got in a car accident. Like, so many fucking weird experiences of like, God, just whisper. And that's kind of what I felt when you were sharing that story of like, this is an awakening process where like a lot of this pain, right, it just seems insurmountable. There is no fucking let at the top. Like this is over. It's done. But when in that grace, right, it's like a soft, it's like a soft wind on your shoulder or something, a quiver, right? And it softens you, it humbles you to come back into like the now, into like what you do have, who you do have, who will always be there with you, which is your family. It's just like the people who really don't have a choice of whether or not to kind of like be a part of your life. I mean, I understand that there's boundaries that can be communicated, or there could be time and space boundaries. But for me, it was like really, it was a combination of like, okay, I'm so grateful that I was even given a chance at life. Being adopted foster kid. Never knew my birth parents. My mother was too broke to afford to raise me. That's why a big reason why I just kind of like fell into the business world, because I had a lot of conditioning on scarcity. I had a lot of lack belief systems of like judgment, honestly, like judgment of like, I can't love myself unconditionally if I made that much money, if I had that type of love, if I had that type of body. And that's the nuance that I've learned through my journey of kind of dying into myself with birthing. And I think that we're now in a collective phase of kind of the universe or source or God kind of like pressuring us through a faster seasoning of that cycle of death, rebirth. It's almost like everyone feels it, but they're pretending like they don't. Or like you're being forced to kill parts of yourself that are not your highest truth. that are not your highest good, that are not authentic to you. And like you said, it's like an identity thing that's deeper. It's and just letting go of these attachments of like, you know, like I'm not my job, I'm not my bank account, I'm not what I look like. There's this spiritual being kind of coming online, and I believe it doesn't even have a gender. I believe that it's an energy. It's a spirit, I mean, quite literally. And learning how to merge, right? Like those two worlds of like such a cool artistic way to make money. Like it's really fascinating to be able to kind of make your own imprint in the world. And it's been such an awesome experience being able to collaborate with some of the top thought leaders and entrepreneurs in the world, and just like paying people or partnering with people or helping people along my journey, and being helped tremendously. Like I always say, I'm not self-made. That's bullshit ego. You're helpmade, right? Like we are in this new consciousness of being reminded that the best way, okay, for me to share with you what I truly believe what's changing in 2024 is that it used to be so much about, okay, how much this? How do we do this? How, like, when do we do this? When's the deadline? How? Now it's starting to come back into who, why, who, why am I here? Why am I even fucking doing this? Why did you start this coaching business? You started it for freedom. But the illusion of financial freedom is what keeps most coaches stuck and controls how they feel about themselves, their circumstances, because they're in the have-not paradigm, like you said. They're not in the being paradigm. And so moving into the world of reconnecting with my frequency of like, what brings me joy? What frees my soul? What makes me feel like I fucking love life and can be in this kind of wholeness sharing vibe of before I even leave my door, I'm like, I fucking meditate, and I'm like, I am not missing anything. Obviously, we can all improve, but I'm not gonna come at this kind of business building, self-improvement from this paradigm of I'm broken. That's why I don't use healing in my world, because it implies there's something wrong with you. It implies you're broken. I'd say something like alchemy, right? Or releasing, because that's the truth of like when you meditate, when you cry, you release patterns, you release narratives, you release subconscious stories of like the limited parts of yourself that are just not you in this moment. And then you start to kind of become more of what you are in a more present, allowing type of vibration where you're not forcing it, but you're kind of in this kind of potency, this softness. And I think softness is, it kind of gets a bad rap, the word itself. Like, oh, you're fucking weak. You're soft, right? Like it's almost like weakness equals soft. But softness is actually what allows our body to receive, honestly, like more of that kind of flow. Because when you're muscular tension, like that's stress, and stress kills you, creates heart disease. And so when I speak, I have to really, what I do is actually reprogram my mind to get into this kind of like letting go, releasing flow. And the more that I let go, okay, there's a broader capacity of me. Think of it like a hose, right? Like if the hose is tight, you're gonna get into this kind of weird fucking resistance. You're gonna be weird around sales. You're gonna be weird around meeting new people. You're gonna be weird about just kind of owning your value as a person, as a being. And you're gonna think that until you get to that external thing or people or places or whatever, that you're gonna feel like you've arrived. But like, when was the last time you thought that thing you accomplished was going to complete you? And then you got the thing, and then you were on to like, your ego was like, okay, well then what's the next thing that I can do or buy or say or person in my life that I can manifest so that I can feel complete? And like, that's how you know that that's a lie. And there's so many fucking lies that we're told in the world about like what it means to be authentic. And I think that the biggest lie is doing things just to be liked by everybody, or maybe pumping energy into the system like a battery. If that's not truly an entrepreneurial role that you're playing in a company that you believe in, like a culture that you vibe with, that you resonate with, you are not serving your highest soul's calling, in my opinion. I'm not afraid of going broke, right? We're just having this conversation in the sun, right? Kind of. Like, I'd rather be broke than take sales calls. Like, we would rather like face that shit and live a life of higher purpose and service on our own terms than have to fucking pay some other tiny little, like, I don't know what the fuck, but you get my point. It's about helping yourself to see that when you're really connected to something that is gonna be for a greater good, and not just like kind of shallow, like, oh, we're just doing the good thing. It's like, but doing it the right way. Like, there is a right and wrong way to do certain things in certain contexts, and I think that that's like that kind of nuance that a lot of coaches miss. You know what I mean? Like, well, they take things like simple truths to like feed your ego of like, love is, we're all one. You know, and just keep saying, we're all one, but I refuse to learn marketing and sales because we're all one. And I'm like, but you can make money and actually change the world with money. Like, you can't change the world by just getting out on your, protesting sign and like trying to get attention in the street. Like, no one cares but you. You're the only one that cares. If you really want to change the world, maybe level up your success and trust that you can find a way to have this fulfillment inside. That can be a very difficult thing. I know it was a difficult thing for me to kind of learn about. Okay, how do I maintain my character, my sanity, without kind of going in that deep end, like we were talking about earlier, like, making money or working on my 6-pack abs, so I can kind of like put that out there, but like it's kind of hiding some kind of insecurity at the core, at the guts of who I am. And why don't you just share some of that? Because that was really powerful what you shared.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of the things that when you were talking, it's like, I remember you said something, it's like a lot of people start their business for freedom. And
what type of freedom?
Well, I think a more important question is why? Why do you need the freedom? Like, why are you really here? And it goes back to, when I had my awakening, I'm here for service. I actually didn't start my business for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to create that? Yeah.
Yeah, me too, actually, that I think about it, bro. Yeah. Like, when I was, I'll let you finish, but like when I like went to the hypnosis training, I'm a guy. Like, usually guys have big egos, But when I went to that training, I never cried in a sequential amount of days that much. It's almost like I went to go certify to learn how to do hypnosis because I felt my life had changed just through like a virtual program with Marissa Peer in 2017. But when I went to the training, like, we were practicing on each other and I was releasing so much fucking heavy shit, like stuff that I brought up like in plant medicine journey, stuff like that. And it made me realize, like, I want other people to feel the same connection that I now feel from releasing what is the false me. Mm-hmm. Like, I want people to have that same experience of a lightness, a connection. Like, I feel like now I'm a part of the world. I don't feel so fucking isolated.
That's where addictions come from.
Yeah, disconnection.
Addictions come from disconnection.
Yes,
and isolation,
and lack of serving in your heart's desire, which doesn't have to include money, right? It doesn't have to include money. So continue.
Yeah, and I think that the freedom is great, but really, I think that when you get down to it, we're all in search of actually freedom from our lower self, the devil, like whatever you want to call it, right?
Satan.
Right, Satan.
Satan.
Yeah. That really, that's what it's about for me. And so in some ways it is freedom, but if you put the financial freedom of everything else.
I knew you were gonna say financial freedom. I knew you were gonna say.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah, you become identified with your business.
But here's also a beautiful thing though, is that your next level, that wherever you're going to go, is going to help illuminate whatever that shadow is that you need to work through.
Mm-hmm.
So like for scaling your business, like, like my first 100K month, I was like, okay, I went there and did it, but I'm like, okay, well, it brought up some things that I didn't really like about myself that I had to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right? Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, now I get to integrate that in that next iteration. But I think also a lot of people can be afraid of, and this goes back to judgment. I want to put a bookmark on that one.
Judgment.
But like not doing something because you're afraid of like doing it wrong. Like no matter what you do, anytime you expand consciousness into a new level, you're going to have frequencies that show up and get illuminated because you're playing bigger. It's like you were too small before, so those shadows were small too, and they probably were inconsequential. But when you grow and expand, you're going to be like, oh, okay, there's something else for me to look at. There's something else for me to push through. But also the biggest thing with this game, because you're talking about judgment, that really that's what everyone in the world suffers from.
Of self or the other.
Well, even judgment of others is actually a judgment of self,
of course,
in some shape or form.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean just because, there is such a thing as discernment. Like that guy did something that was fucked up. Is it a judgment? Technically, yes, but you're not judging them in a way that there's a difference between judgment and discernment. And I'm not talking about discernment. What I'm talking about is actually judging someone as less than, or judging yourself, or fear is a judgment that like, hey, if I do this, something's going to happen. And it's getting us caught and it's separating us from God. Every time we judge ourselves, we're actually putting a crack in that foundation of who we really are. And one of the other things that you're talking about, like when you hit that result and you don't ever really feel fulfilled, one of the tools I like to say is that I live in transformation. I'm not seeking a transformation. I just live in it and I be it. Because I know that whenever I hit that 100K a month, 7 figures, $1 billion, like whatever the thing is, the new relationship, like it's about who am I being in that? But it's like we're not attached to it, so we don't get this like high off of it. Right? Because then we can experience the gifts, but it's not this like bipolar experience.
Yeah,
that we get to have.
Yeah, no, just to piggyback off of that, the way you want to see this is you want to neutralize like everything. Like I will give you a crazy example, but like I literally trained my brain where if I saw someone like literally like decapitated on the side of the road, okay, I know this is a little gruesome, but just imagine that, right? Like maybe they're like losing a limb, they got like their arm like cut off. It's like the fucking apocalypse. Like I had to train my mind to be like someone who could walk by and be like, oh, interesting. Like I can't, like I had to train my mind to like see any fucking crazy shit that goes down in my world as like neutral. Not good, not bad, just neutral. Right? Made 80K in a day on a stage, selling on the stage. Oh yeah, but it's like life. The life changes when they change their life. Not the sale change. The sale ends when they change their life, not when you fucking collect the cash. It ends when their life fucking changes and they get results. That's how I see it. And I'm not saying I'm not perfect. Okay, I've made mistakes. There's things that I've done in my life, in my relationships, in my business, and my family life. Like there's plenty of things that I would have totally gone back on. Which is why I think that like what you said about being afraid to doing it right and wrong, it has substance to that because I believe that regret is a deeper tool to help us wake up. It's a way for us to say, hey, like this is a learning experience and you kind of need that remorse, that grief to understand, like, wow, like when we're dead, we're gonna like, wow, like I felt grief, I felt depression, I felt anxiety,
I lived.
wow, like, yeah, I lived a life. Got my fucking heart broken wide the fuck open. And I found God through shame. What do I mean by that? I realized how many habits and things I was doing, moving from that kind of energy of who am I to be doing this, and kind of coaxing myself into this like psychotic trance, believing that it was safer or yeah, it was safer to play small. Whereas like now you and I have like maybe millions of dollars in coaching in different niches as well, which is like why I wanted to have you on, because we're like twinsies, y'all. Just see things slightly differently, obviously. We definitely serve a similar demographic of like established coaches, right? But when I began to see that, like, holy fuck, dude, you're playing big. It can get to a point where it is easier to take the leap. Like, you know that that's true, because when you took a leap and you were scared shitless, like, dude, it paid off massively, exponentially, compounding. And so when was the last time, I'll ask you a question, when was the last time that you stayed in your comfort zone, you crawled back to that, and you changed your life? When did that happen? Never. So it's okay for us to, like, for me, when I'm marketing, I know when I'm in an impulsive state and didn't meditate, didn't do the cold plunge and whatever. So I want to market from a space of presence. And if I feel like polarizing, I will, but I'm not going to take my anger out and like put on my platform, like based on kind of my emotional state. Does that make sense? That's part of my value system of marketing from truth. And like, that's what I meant to say, of like, sometimes the truth stings, but when you really find that there's a higher wisdom, universal intelligence that is kind of wanting you to kind of remove yourself out of this kind of lower paradigm. That's what we're talking about here, around just like know yourself, like know yourself. And that is, like, for me, I use the word evolving, right? Every single day. Out here in this space is kind of like where Steve and I, at least I'll speak for myself, I love to create from my practice and skill, but in my experience, but I like this kind of transcendent flow where kind of I'm forced to deeply engage with the moment. Okay. And it's not that I couldn't, for instance, like go into some sort of like framework in my mind, but it's a great opportunity of like going live to allow yourself to tap into this kind of skill set refinement of, okay, how do we start with the hook? How do we start with who this is for? How do we shift into what you need to be aware of, what to avoid, so that you can avoid opportunity costs, but you can get this other awesome shit. And then they're like, okay, well, how, right? So like, we understand those kind of frameworks to allow yourself to kind of take yourself, right, through your own personal journey into our worlds that we're kind of like co-creating together here. But for me to just allow myself to take what's here in this space, that's helped me tremendously with transcending kind of like the shame pattern or the fear kind of controlling me, and kind of being at the effect of how I feel, at the effect of what is. And it's helped me to see that, like, oh, there just may be some shame lingering here. I don't have to say it's my shame. I don't have to say it's my fear. I could just say that, like, there's some fear in the body.
It's like there's an entity attached to you when it comes to fears or anything. Really,
yeah. It's just about
soul.
that subtlety of like saying, hey, it's not my fear, because once you say it's mine, it's harder to.
Right. That's the ego.
Yeah.
Just like I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm this career, I'm this business, I'm this bank account. We oftentimes in this process, we attach stuff to ourselves. And really, it has to do with how we communicate to ourselves, or we were taught to communicate to ourselves. It's also why I love sales and marketing, because really it's communicating.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And the word is, we call it casting spells, prayers, creating. But it's like, and what I really love about marketing and messaging and all of that stuff, because it's like, as I get better at communicating with myself through my thoughts and belief, the more I can communicate to others. And, not only am I being that, but also learning these skills helps me be better. And, it's like all my marketing, was it all, if I go look at my stuff from 5 years ago.
Oh, shit.
I might cringe a little bit.
Yeah, right.
But like, if I never fucked up and did it wrong, closed people too hard, was too aggressive, or whatever it was, I would have never known where my center was. But it made me a better communicator. And I think that's important, because it's like literally you can communicate new frequencies into people through your sales and marketing. And I think that like, especially is like super important as like the coaching industry is like changing and evolving. I feel like the coaching industry in some ways is having its own awakening. And that has to do with the, like we were talking earlier, that, whenever there's a saturated market, it always leads to consolidation. And in order to consolidate, the people that are best at marketing and delivery and all those things are going to be called up. And it's only for those that are really ready to play the game at a new level.
Yeah. And now more than ever, we're about 55 minutes in, so we're gonna end it in like 5 minutes or so at the top of this hour. But yeah, the whole energy ritual is kind of like slowing down your thought process. And when you feel kind of like regulated, like not only do you not need to say as much, but it's so powerful, because in persuasion and influence, when you talk too much, when you over convince, your status goes down. Isn't that interesting? Because like you're taught in school, like the teacher's saying all this shit, and I'm just here to like memorize this. Oh, they have the authority. So then if I want to be authority, I should be like that. But that's actually not how it is. In fact, they train that, creativity out of you. They train that intuition out of you. They train that fun out of you. They train the joy, abundance, frequency out of your fucking head so you can be a robot. I'm being a little dramatic here, but I'm doing it intentionally, because a lot of people are kind of in this apathy, in this kind of coping. And so, there's that, right, which is kind of like the lower mainstream paradigm. But when you get to that higher paradigm, you start to say, oh, I can connect. I can take some ownership. I can connect to my pain from a higher altitude to get leverage on myself, on my ego. So I could just catapult myself into a clear, meaningful vision. And so when we're allowing ourselves to kind of just, this theme, I think from this life is really just being back into like, what is your version of being? What is your version of being? What makes you laugh? What are you passionate about? What do you want to share from the heart, the gift that God gave you that nobody will understand but you? That's what you're talking about. It's like, dude, God gives you things that you're meant to share that you shouldn't expect, honestly, in my opinion, for others to understand. And in fact, it's a heavy burden to expect people to understand you. Like, I barely understand you. So it's cool, because marketing and sales is kind of like an accountability partner in a way, to help you kind of like pass the congruence test of the universe, of like saying, hey, you said
it's a mirror.
It's a mirror. You said you wanted this type of life, these types of relationships. You said you wanted to feel this certain way. And now our job is to kind of like, okay, let's do our best to kind of feel how we would feel if we already had that. How do we sustain that? How do we trust the unknown? How do we become curious and playful in the darkness? You don't even know how are we going to solve this problem? Because you're in a higher consciousness of lightness, of joy, of self-amusement. And I think that's what's going to carry people into this vibe of collaborativeness. And we've already really started to see that. That's always been kind of a truth when it comes down to who's the dude that created the railroad in America? Is it Think and Grow Rich?
I can't remember.
You know the dude though,
Yeah.
he just basically masterminded a ton of genius guys, and because he was the hub of all those relationships, he just became fucking super wealthy. But it's that kind of collaborative mastermind frame of community, and I think that is where we're going to land this conversation off of asking yourself, who are you surrounding yourself with? Just take a moment to drop in into are you truly satisfied inside? And then from there, if you are, great, fantastic. Do you have a community who can hold you to a higher standard of who you really are, even at a more expansive level, so that you can hold more responsibility, you can hold more capacity, you can have more impact in the world? Who are you going to take action towards to truly allow your gifts to get in front of the right people, to not rob the world of all of these incredible things just because you have a little bit of kind of not mastery over, okay, what's working now? Maybe I know a lot of my community, they're very good at sales and they struggle, right? They struggle with how do they make their offer very attractive to the clients. They're not quite clear on that, which is kind of why they're not attracting enough qualified leads. That's at least what I've observed. Because they're using outdated strategy, or they think they know it all. I've been there. Trust me, I've been there many times. And like you said, I if I were to go back even just 5-6 years into my marketing, it was probably all over the place. And I can still be pretty much all over the place. But that's why I like to kind of flesh out these ideas with myself, with you, with my friends, because we gain benefit from this too. We gain new ideas. We learn how to improve our public speaking. We learn how to communicate with you, knowing that you're going to receive this in a certain way. And we also have our own kind of core message to get across to you and share with you. And our intention truly today was really how to get more clarity on what do you want? Why is that important to you? When would you like to have that done by, or what's your kind of intention for when you'd like to land that plane? And what's the best chance that you've got to allow yourself to receive that and see that as kind of a new floor? Let's just have you write that down of, what do you think is possible for you and okay with you now? And what do you feel would not be good or safe or okay with you, so that you can kind of start to understand that there is in fact kind of an upper limit that we all have. And Steve and I have taken thousands of sales calls, and we understand that there's a beauty to not having it. We don't really have to do sales calls anymore, which is a thing that we kind of built our systems around to eventually get to that level of external freedom. Because the freedom people talk about is, I can work where I want. I can work whenever I want. I can make as much money as I choose to. I can work with whoever I want. And that's kind of the level of freedom that everyone associates with what is freedom? But I truly believe, and let me know if you agree with this, which is starting with the priority of this right here, the frequency of why you started as a coach. What brings you bliss? Can you start with more play in your life and then bring that frequency. Because I can almost guarantee you and almost promise you that any company that is just based off of taking greed, control, means to an end, is going to collapse. I truly believe that those companies, people will just not see, they'll kind of see past your veil. And I think that the people who really focus on their intention and really focus on staying present to the moment are going to really be able to make the most impact. So we'll let you finish it off today with any last words, bro. It's great having you on, though.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Theo. So yeah, I think that's just it. I think that, the people that are in it for the right reason, I think that a lot of systems people are waking up to, especially here in the West. And I think the ones that are doing it from a place of integrity,
Yeah.
And I think in a smaller world, or a smaller way, I think that's kind of happening in the coaching industry. It's happening, in the economies and the big financial systems. Everyone's like seeing it through COVID and the financial collapses and all the different things. And there's lots of different show topics on that stuff. But I think people are really, they want something different. And I think that's what I love about the coaching industry is that, we're here to, the way showers and the truth tellers, that we're here to help raise our consciousness and the people around us and stick together and all grow. Because I really think that, I can speak for me. I know that I'm here to, serve others. And I think that's really innate in us all. And I think that the closer we get to systems that really actually support that, and it's not about greed, or it's not about business. It's about, serving each other and loving each other and creating communities and small communities. Like a lot of people here, they just kind of want to get off in their little conscious community and their farm and,
Oh my God.
and just like simple, like we really don't need a lot of this extra stuff, And so that's what I'm excited about. And thanks again for having me on here.
My pleasure, brother. It's I invite you to see that you're being called forth to commit. And by the way, in case you didn't catch this, but I'm talking to myself through the screen. Isn't that interesting? Oh, wait, what? I tell this to my clients. Hey, you hear yourself talk to yourself through the screen. If this resonates. Okay? But no, all jokes aside, like I invite you to maybe see that you, okay, the highest infinite you is being called to be fucking committed. Not just to your external outcomes. That's kind of obvious as an entrepreneur. But more importantly, committed to your state of being, committed to your frequency, committed to the intention of why you coach. This is about expansion and waking up to the multiple dimensions that you, and only you with God, who wants to move through you, can source. And today is going to be the day that some people watching this live are going to stop having this false belief that like you're ever not connected to source. How many excuses do people make? Oh, I need to go connect to source. Like, I understand that, social media, it gets you stuck in your fucking head. It gets you stuck in your head. And you're like, oh, fuck that, I'm just so logical. Like, I'm just stuck in my head. And that kind of sucks, right? Because you kind of lose your swag, you lose your charisma a little bit. You get a little like heady, a little kind of like rigid in your mind. But that's why we fucking socialize. That's why we vibe. We have fun. And the more you can kind of create this ecosystem of positive emotion around you, so that comes like a flywheel. Your money is like, that's a unique lane of success for you. Your family, unique lane of success for your lineage. Your friendships and social life and dating, that's a unique lane of success. Your health and energy and focus and productivity and flow state that shit, like that's why I like being an entrepreneur, because I don't see this as like a fucking sport, yo. And there's C players, there's B players, and there's A players. C players are like, I know what to do. Oh, pity me. Ooh, why? You know, we've all been there. And then like the B players are like, you know, I'm doing my best. I'm trying. Like, I don't know what to do. I want to do this, but wait, hold on. I'm kind of wishy-washy. Like, feast and famine income. But then it's the A players who are like resilient, resourceful, creative. They understand there's never a money issue, the self-love acceptance issue, or there's just a lack of resourcefulness and creativity issue. There's a low paradigm issue. There's an unwillingness issue. There's a lack of seeing that there's an interconnectedness between all of the cycle of life. And we hope you are inspired by today to help you to see that you can use, you can use social media to become a category of uno, one, because no one can tell your story as well as you can. Your story matters, and that you have a gift to share. And when you learn these principles, these skill sets, shifting your belief systems, understanding things like social dynamics, frame control, how to harmonize your masculine, feminine energy, how to understand communication, like Steve was talking about, okay, attraction, marketing, okay, how do you bring people down the funnel, the client journey? How do you turn that lead into a client? How do you upsell the client from low ticket? How do you sell the clients a low ticket? Or how do you sell that passively through a sales system like I have? I know you probably have some things like that too. How do you continue to have people cross-sell after they finish the program? How do you recommit them to a vision that's broader and more expansive, and continue to build out that lifetime value? Not because you're being a little greedy person, no, because you fucking care about expanding, right? And building your community around a certain type of value system, a certain type of vision, and a certain type of mission. So it is your mission to just take one breath right now. Go ahead and take a deep breath and connect to what is here. Connect to what is true here now. If you are the now, if you are indestructible consciousness, then there really is no fucking limitation to you, is there? Is there? Now, obviously, like there's some kind of nuances to that. Like obviously, you either got the result or you didn't. But the way I see it is that there's always a solution. And I'm actually gonna give Michael Beckwith credit about this, because he told me this in Boulder, Colorado. I'm like, Michael Beckwith, yes, agape. Side story, we'll bring that for next time. But like he said, like the solution is already available to you. It's just that like people don't believe what they see. They only see what they believe. So there could be like a $1 million opportunity that is right in front of your face. But if you don't see that within yourself, that you can have that, you deserve that, which you do, then you won't fucking even see it. It's like if I were to give a homeless man $1 million check, like he wouldn't appreciate that. He wouldn't resonate with that. Does that make sense? So this is what we're talking about. It's like when you raise your consciousness, you're able to actually see things that kind of the lower self-consciousness wouldn't have been able to see. So comment down below, hit the subscribe button, go give Steve Love a follow. He's on Facebook, Instagram. Where can they find you on the best chance?
Instagram is me, Steve Love, just Steve Love on Facebook.
Yep. And also subscribe if you like this video. If you'd like me to do more of these, comment down below and just give me a follow on Instagram, and also subscribe here. Hit the notification bell, because we'll be releasing other lives in the future of some of my other thought leader friends like Steve, who we really want to show you how to level up your game so that you can get the most ROI on every single action and decision that you're making. But truly, how do you stay aligned with your core essence as a person, as a spirit? So talk soon. Peace, power, and love. Until next time. Bye.